aggressively for position before the competition yellow.
And Elliott's out.
Oh, the 6 of Darrell Wallace Jr. is going to go around. He catches the 48. The big one happens in front. 2 of Austin Dillon is collected. 3 of Ty Dillon gets through.
Definitely left front damage.
Brennan Poole involved in the 48. You see the 19 parts. Daniel Suarez.
But you see right here, there's a gap between the 6 and the 48. As that gap starts to close, the 48 hits him once, everything's fine. And then he hits him a second time closer to the right rear corner, and you see that starts to move the tail of the 6 from left to right. Darrell Wallace Jr. does the best he can to regain control, but at these speeds he loses control, gets into the 20, and then you start to see just back and forth. You see the 19 and Daniel Suarez as it leaves the screen, almost has it collected. The 2, great to see that car come back onto the ground. We saw cars go airborne in Talladega. That car could have easily went up into the air and flipped over. The roof flaps open, the cowl flaps open, set the 2 back on the ground.
That was the contact Eric Jones felt.
Hold it.
Eric Jones. Go around, and then the contact there.
We just got caught in the right rear. We made it through it, but then we got clipped in the right rear. Going to come to you with right side damage.
Dropping back a few spots. Justin Allgaier giving a shove to Eric Almirola, and into the wall goes David. David Reagan slamming into the wall.
Behind you, no caution yet. Outside.
Darrell Wallace Jr. quick across the inside wall. The caution has not come out. The race is still on. Justin Allgaier on the high side. Eric Almirola on the bottom of the racetrack. Coming at a turn 4. And the caution will come out. Now we'll have to go back to video to find out who was in the lead when the caution light came out.
What NASCAR does when to throw the caution, they evaluate it. They knew the wreck was on the back straightaway. They knew that if they went back to the start-finish line, they could get slowed down before they got there. But they must have seen something on the back straightaway. They felt like they had to roll safety personnel, and that's why they threw the caution when they did.
Blake Cook, the 11 stopped. Quite a few cars involved in the accident. Benny Gordon in the 14 also involved again. Take a look at the wreck that happened behind them. David Reagan hard into the wall. And quite a few cars caught up after the fact.
Oh, that's a big impact. Now I understand why NASCAR wanted to roll safety personnel. That's a big impact. Car essentially went underneath another car, another impact from behind. So, you know, again, listen, I know race fans want these things to end on the green, but you can't fault NASCAR in this situation. That's heavy impact from 2 cars right there, and it only gets worse as this wreck continues.
Blake Cook in the 11 involved. David Reagan bouncing around like a pinball. 6 of Darrell Wallace Jr. shooting across the track through the infield. Joey Gase in the 52.
This impact right here with the 11, the outside wall.
And then another impact right there.
Yeah, I just, again, we wanted to end at the start-finish line, no doubt. But they wanted to roll safety personnel. There were a lot of hard impacts on the back straightaway. They tried to give it a shot. They tried to go green, get it to the line. They just felt like they had to roll safety personnel. There's nothing wrong with that.
No. Mike Massaro.
The 2 team has avoided the scare they had earlier with the water temperatures. The debris is completely removed. We've talked about Brad Keselowski being proficient at restrictor plate racing. 4 wins, and we've got trouble behind him, Rick.
Around they go.
Yeah, stay down, go up.
It looked like it was Eric Almirola that was the first to go sideways and then collecting numerous cars behind him. May have been the one of Jamie McMurray. It was a light blue car. Chase Elliott. That Sun Energy 1 caught up the window net down for him. Paul Menard in the 27. Jamie McMurray trying to get it going the right direction. Kevin Harvick is involved. The 44 of Brian Scott. And already we're seeing Chase Elliott climb out of that car. The big one happening So close, running around this racetrack. The 7 also, Regan Smith. So much damage to the back end of the 7 of Smith. Brian Scott climbing out of the Shore Lodge 44. Jamie McMurray stuck on the banking. Take another look. It was McMurray in the 1.
See McMurray and Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy comes up, and then McMurray actually comes down and gets onto the left front. It's on from there. I mean, we talked about it earlier. As soon as somebody makes a mistake and you're in this big pack of cars, you're going to take a lot of people with you. It's just how it happens. Some of these cars riding around the back actually got in the wreck as well. So one mistake by a driver, a mistake by 2 drivers, and this is what happens. It's not just those 2.
And a bump there by the 48. The back bumper of Jamie McMurray. 78 of Martin Truex Jr. caught up. Danica Patrick also. Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88. Brian Scott up on the hood of the 4 of Kevin Harvick. Chris Buescher, 23-year-old out of Prosper, Texas, was involved. Also that 46 of Michael Annett, another Midwesterner.
Big impact. Jamie Murray hit really hard. Ended up getting clipped in the rear, turned him to the right. Hard impact, and all these cars had nowhere to go.
Of course, Jimmy Johnson in the 48 involved from the beginning.
And we're on board with Jamie McMurray. You see him just saw the wheel, that small movement. He just couldn't save it. Hard impact, and look at the multiple impacts. Another shot. 3 big hits for Jamie McMurray. Gets his hands off the wheels, so as the wheel goes left and right, it doesn't catch his thumb or a finger. On board here with Dale Earnhardt Jr. You hear him out of the gas.
Check it up.
Just nowhere to go. He drives through the accident, but a lot of damage to the nose of the 88 car.
All 4 Hendrick cars involved. Casey Kane as well. A lot of damage to the 48, the 78.
And the frustration of speedway racing is this is it. 2 drivers, Jimmy Johnson and Jamie McMurray, get into one another. Just mistakes. And their mistakes are going to cause a poor night for 15,
half the
16,
field.
17 cars. Yeah.
We're at almost 19 cars that I've counted.
And look at Kevin Harvick, how far underneath Brian Scott he is. The rear tires are on the roof of the 4 car.
Matt DiBenedetto in the 83 is up underneath the 4. And the sparks flying. So much sheet metal damage.
And things happen so quickly. But you can see the 1 car. The 48 moves up, and at the same time, now the 1 starts moving down, just barely clips him. Then he gets into the side of his teammate. Then he has to slow down to keep him wrecking, and the 48 gets into the back of him. So kind of it looked like to me at the same time, they just kind of got together. The 48 moved up, the 1 moved down, and it started every bit.
And Jimmy was thinking 3 wide, and the 1 didn't think he would be in that lane. On board with Kevin Harvick. You mentioned the 44. You hear him out of the gas, on the brakes.
Go low.
Absolutely nowhere to go. You see his view, a car on his windshield.
All right.
And that's how fast it happens.
Look at the 34, how fast he's coming in there. 31.
Yep, 31 also.
Ryan Newman, he gets into the back of Greg Biffle. I mean, all these cars have significant damage. The 16 of Biffle, of all the cars that got hit significantly, he probably has the least amount of damage if it didn't damage the fuel cell.
20 of Kenseth.
A lot of big names in this wreck.
Absolutely.
See Danica in it. She was a lap. She had just gotten lapped.
There's the damage to the 4 of Kevin Harvick. The hood folded back, not even a front end.
And so
Crew's going to come in. You heard the radio, the team telling him you're going to have to do a pass-through.
Big crash, turn 3.
A lot of damage. There's the 19 of Hemrick involved, the 13 of Cameron Haley, Caleb Holman in the 75.
Stewart's freezing.
How about that? Ben Kennedy. We talked about
Look at the
Kennedy's
damage.
need for a good night tonight.
Look at the damage on the 75 truck of Caleb Holman. It looked like Holman and Spencer Gallagher were at the beginning of this crash. I think they just dove into the corner, got tangled up, and went into the outside wall. And of course, going into the outside wall when people are committed up there, there just isn't anywhere for people to go.
Caleb Holman in that 75, he was the fastest qualifier in our single truck qualifying. Certainly one of the highlights of his career. Big damage to the 23 of Spencer Gallagher.
That just shows you how fast they're going. I know, we're on a dirt track. The pole was somewhere around 85 miles an hour, but that's how quickly, when things go wrong, these things can get wadded up and tied together. And man, we saw 7 or 8 trucks in that crash, and just look at how bad Caleb Holman's truck is torn up.
Nothing left of the back of that Food Country truck.
You can see maybe from a better angle here, but watch how this track is just blocked for these guys that are committed to the outside.
Yeah, and how is Johnny Sauter going to get by there? He actually got a little damage, ran into the side of the 75. Timothy Peters as well.
And the 13 truck of Haley, he escaped any damage. I think he's in the middle of it, but he didn't hit anything really.
Right along with Cody Coughlin. He was far enough back, he was able to see it.
Back in the air. Not a good restart for Martin Truex Jr. He falls back all the way to 4th. And around goes the 19. Carl Edwards hard into the wall. 31 also around. The 12 or the 2 of Brad Keselowski connected. Danica Patrick in the 10 also involved.
We're back to 43.
Ryan Blaney, I believe the 21, may have been caught up. Ryan Blaney, we had just praised Blaney as being in the top 16 in points, trying to get a playoff berth. You see Ryan Blaney take the steering wheel off. Safety crew immediately to him.
Jeff, you told us how crazy these restarts were going to be, and we saw it right here with under 10 to go. Very little give and take. Everyone trying to position themselves for that long run down the backstretch.
19 and 31 side by side. 19 just gets up the racetrack. I don't know if he got loose, got tight, got into the side of 31, and behind that it's just over.
He had mentioned earlier that his car got really tight on the last restart. We saw him go off the racetrack. You wonder if it leads with the nose. It's hard to tell. Definitely gets into 31's left rear quarter panel. Nothing he could do. But how about Kevin Harvick? Hard right-hand turn, gut by the spinning 31.
That was a big hit for Carl Edwards. That was a hard hit. And also, about the 4 right behind the 19. Remember, when you get that close to another car, you're pulling the air off of that car. So you're taking a lot of downforce away from that car. You have a car on the outside of you, a car underneath, in front of you. All those things make your car very, very difficult to drive. And he already had trouble on the restart before. He said his car did not turn well at all. You take the aerodynamics away from the car, the downforce, and it drives worse. Watch the 4 car here.
Yeah, we're on board with the 4 car. You're going to see.
Watch him here. 2 and the 2 wide. 2 wide, 2 by 2. Still outside. Tight.
The 19 just comes up the racetrack. You hear the throttle control. Kevin Harvick does a nice job not running into him. You see up in the right-hand corner of your screen, the red flag has been displayed. The field's been stopped. This is another on board right here. Ryan Blaney. Nowhere to go. A heavy impact.
Hold it right there.
That hurts. You see him holding his left arm. You see him clenching his left fist.
Very hard contact for Carl Edwards.
That's restarts. If you're Kevin Harvick, you have to.
NASCAR's taking a look at that restart, making sure everyone was in line when they came to the start-finish line.
See Brendan Gaughan, the black and yellow car, missed the top of the S's.
Oh, and around goes. Big accident. The 14 involved. Looks like Kyle Busch might have been at the front end of that. Tommy Dreese in the 14.
And this is so fast and so narrow, Rick. This is what happens. There's just no room. You see big damage on the 18 of Kyle Busch. He's going to go behind the wall. He's had enough. His day's done. The 11. Big chase implications in the 11.
Now look at this. Darrell Wallace Jr. in the 6. Huge damage to the front end.
And he has no choice but to stop if he doesn't have any oil pressure. I can't tell if it's leaking fluid, but you got to be very careful.
He probably can't see. The way the hood's been up, probably can't see over the hood.
He's going to try to find his way back to pit road.
And a lot of times we'll see drivers continue to drive as we look at the 90 of Todd Bodine. Also, big contact here.
And this is a road course, and we think about road courses not being very fast, but this racetrack is exceptionally fast. And going up the S's, you know, there's guardrail on both sides. When the wreck starts, there's nowhere to go, and you're going at a high rate of speed. So we've seen major impacts. One wreck start and everybody pile into it because there's no escape zone.
Well, the other issue with no escape zone is I think they're going to have to red flag the field, Rick, because there's just nowhere for the cars to go up through the S's with the tracks virtually blocked. You see, I mean, there's nowhere for the cars to go. Look at just the damage and debris all over the racetrack.
Clements trying to get through there in the 51. That's Jeremy Clements. But we are hearing that they are going to stop the field after they get through turn 1. That's up through the S's, and so many times we continue to mention it's a blind turn. These guys cannot see where they're headed, and it gets very narrow up here at this point. Take another look at what happens.
Wow, you see the 90.
Big contact from the 90.
Yeah, you have to believe there was contact from behind or something happened. The angle at which he was heading to the wall. Severe change of directions quickly.
Drivers trying to get through after all of that took place, but the 90 got into the wall, bounced back out onto the racetrack.
Oh, and the 18 had it completely stopped until the 11 comes spinning back across the racetrack and made big contact with the left rear of the 18.
Red flag is out. We look once again. So much damage to so many cars. Again, so tight in that area. It's right along with the 11.
Look at to your left. Look at to your left. Clear. Back it right here. Back it down, back it down, back it down, back it down, back it down.
When you hear a driver say, his hands off the wheel, you hear a driver say he had nowhere to go.
We got damage.
There's
We definitely got
absolutely
damage.
nothing he could have done different.
Front, right front. Tip in your oil. Everybody to garage stall. Everybody to garage stall.
Talking about all the damage to the car. Another look as they go up through the S's. Again, the 90 sideways there and then pointed back the other direction.
To a Menard barely gets by the driver's left. Look how fast these cars are coming right here at real speed.
It's so hard to tell what started all this.
There was damage to the back of the 90. Not sure if that happened prior to him getting right and into the wall or after the fact.
I don't know, you saw him loose getting up the hill, and I don't know when he got loose, he slowed down, and the guys behind him ran into the back of him, and that's what turned him right. It's just so hard to tell.
Look at the dejected look on Blake Cook's body as he just exhales disappointment. Coming onto pit road as quickly as they can to see if they can be the first onto pit road.
Well, in the first round of pit stops, it was that 2, and Paul Wolf was the first car on pit road. As you see, the 18 at Kyle Busch.
Oh, and a big contact! Came across the barrier, the 16 of Biffle involved. As is the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Austin Dillon included in this as well. That's coming out of the carousel. So we're getting ready to head into turn 6. So much damage by the 17. Also the 48 of Jimmy Johnson.
We'll be going to the garage here, fellas.
We've seen big wrecks on this short chute before. Coming off the carousel with so much speed. Guardrails on both sides.
Cars stopped.
And this is one thing we talk about: strategy, penalties, all those things. The further back you get in the field, the easier it is to get caught up. So we saw the 48 with a series of penalties that got him in the back of the pack.
A reminder, the rules are for these drivers to stay in their cars until the safety crews get to them. So that's why we didn't see Jimmy Johnson climb out of that car until the safety crew got to him, but they do put the window net down, just signifying that they can do it and that they're okay. And then the safety crews will get to them and then they'll climb out. But we saw the 48 and the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the 16 of Greg Biffle involved in this. Take another look at what happened. Ryan Blaney in the 21. It was just behind him. Stenhouse Jr. into the wall. Back out. There was some contact made behind him and then big contact from Jimmy Johnson.
I mean, from that angle, it looked like Stenhouse lost it off the long carousel, got loose, leaving the carousel, trying to carry speed, just got loose, and now he gets back out on the racetrack.
Heavy shot for Jimmy Johnson into the side of the 17. You see 16er Greg Biffle also getting into the Armco, the 3 Dylan. We've seen some major crashes here, Jeff. Unfortunately, I know you've been a part of at least one. It's that blind sweeping corner. So we're going to see right here the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse up in front. He gets up over that curb and just gets loose. Just hard in the gas, gets loose, comes across the racetrack. Big shot into the Armco, and then it's just so narrow, Rick. There's no escape route. The 17 doesn't slide 100 feet off the racetrack. He comes back onto the racetrack. Heavy contact with the 48 of Jimmy Johnson.
There was 2 accidents that happened at the same time. The 17 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was sliding off the track.
Sit ahead of you here. Stay high, stay high, stay high. Back it down. Stay high, stay high. You're coming
Great
back
move by
across,
Casey
come back
Mears.
across. I can't see. Stop. There you go. You're clear right there. There's the 401 right in front of you.
So we saw him racing off this right here, the 17. I'm not so sure that maybe he didn't clip that curb on the right before, and kind of push him way out as he was racing the car in front of him. Sorry, I can't make out who that car was that was in front of him, but I wonder if that wreck didn't actually start in the carousel. Looked like he got really low and maybe clipped that curb, and that pushed him way left, and then ultimately got loose. Back out into the racetrack. Big impact.
Because Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was about to come back out on the track, a lot of guys over on the left were trying to fight for track position, and it's so narrow there. As you mentioned, there's just not enough room for multiple cars to go through.
And remember,
last week it was Chris Buescher. This week could it be Kyle Larson running in the 4th spot? And around goes the 4th. Kevin Harvick involved in this one, as is the 23 of David Reagan. Once again, chase implications. They stay green, and now caution. Now the caution comes out. Kevin Harvick, David Reagan. 2 cars involved in this 4-car incident. And it will be a sprint now to the finish, because they'll have to clean this track up. Denny Hamlin out front, Joey Logano running second, in the bus stop.
See Paul Menard, he had all 4 tires, got into the side of the 6. Now he's up the racetrack, has to try to find a way back onto the racetrack. A lot of dirt on the track, drivers can't see, they all get stacked up. Now it's a chain reaction.
More than 4 cars damaged. 34 of Chris Buescher was also involved. That's the 34, the yellow and blue on the inside up against the Armco barrier. Riding along with Kevin Harvick.
All clear right there. Single file to the 44, 1 back. And the 27 foot of smoke here.
The red flag now out. Big contact there again.
Yeah.
It's all smoke.
Kevin Harvick could not see the start of that wreck, had no idea anything was going on. Just you can't see it, and it just, the chain reaction starts just like on the interstate. That's no different than how we see wrecks on the interstate.
Looking at it, Kurt Busch trying to take that top spot away from Joey Logano. Brad Keselowski was able to get by. Oh, and sideways goes the 41. Contact with the 2 of Brad Keselowski. Caution comes out. The 21 also involved.
Inside. Hold tight here.
Looked like the 41 of Kurt Busch got really loose off.
Kyle Larson also a lot of damage, as well as Brian Scott in the 44. See all the damage to Ryan Blaney in that 21. Look at the fluid come out.
Wrecked in front of us, and they all checked up and came up in front of us. Yeah, just blew out of it. I think we're done.
And this looks interesting.
I don't think there's anything Brad could have done there.
No.
Get a replay of it, but it looked like to me Kurt just got really loose off of turn 2. So loose that I almost thought he had a problem, but get a replay and get a better view of it.
I think the drive shaft is blown out of.
Sounded like Kurt Busch there talking as we're watching Brad Keselowski work his way back to pit road. Taking a little look at what happened.
You see right there a big wiggle from the 41, just very loose, and now those guys behind him, there's nothing they can do.
No.
All of them, obviously the right side tires are up. I just think he got loose.
Yeah, and then Brad Keselowski had nowhere to go. And the rest of the cars just, you know he's coming back up towards the racetrack. So as they try to get slowed down, they just continue to make contact with one another.
Could have been a close call for the 24 of Chase Elliott. Not sure if he has front end damage or not, but he was very close. We see the 41 sliding there and the 2 just slamming into the driver's side door.
That view right there showed how close it was for Joey Logano, barely squeaking by with the right side of his race car.
48 of Jimmy Johnson just getting by.
Jeff Gordon cleared it down low.
Still there. 6 to the right. Caution's out, back it down, right. Go to the apron here if you can. All the way to the apron.
And now we know that Matt Kenseth also heavily involved. Right along with Kevin.
Whatever you want. One back, 4 by 4. Caution.
It always amazes me. You heard Kevin Harvick get out of the gas, saw the accident happen, but then has enough just talent, really. Talent and sense to get back in the gas. Look at Jimmy Johnson for a big slide here. But, enough talent to get back into the gas to drive through the wreck before they have a chance to get up and get him. With the 24, Jeff, you were mentioning, it looks like some heavy damage to the hood and the nose. It'll be interesting to see if there's any damage to the cooling system. That's right up there in that area.
See, Paul Menard had the right front tire locked up to try to miss the wreck, so he may have flat spotted it.
Locks it up again. Coming at us.
Look how fast everything happens. So right along with Blaney. Watch how quick this happens.
6 to the right. Caution's out, back it down, right. Go to the apron here if you can.
People ask why is it so easy to get in a wreck in Bristol? There you go. What could Ryan Blaney have done different? Absolutely nothing he could have done.
Kenny Hamlin hard on the brakes. So Brian Scott sliding in there late to the left in the 44.
He spins around. Oh, Christopher Bell around, and he takes Spencer Gallagher. A big hit for Bell and Gallagher, both 2 very fast trucks, and they are done.
We've been waiting for that all day, Phil. We talk about how the truck on the inside is loose. They can barely hang on to them. That was an example of that, and Bell just didn't get all the way down to the white line, too close to the truck on the outside, and around he went. Bell dives to the inside of the 00 truck. Great momentum, great move, but he just doesn't get all the way down to the yellow line right there, and he bobbled, and around it goes. Happened that quick.
Boy, and Spencer Gallagher had nowhere to go. Certainly not Gallagher's fault in that situation, just a victim of circumstance.
But a great save by Cole Custer, too, as Bell gets loose and moves him way up the hill, gives him extra room, and saves his truck.
Into the Gallagher truck and then the outside wall. I mean, it's amazing the way that truck is destroyed. Those guys were able just to walk away.
Loose a little bit on that contact, and hard into the wall is Cole Custer.
Same situation. He got loose underneath Brett Moffitt.
Wow.
You got fire coming out the back here.
That was a big hit.
See the winner net down.
And the fire's out.
As the laps wind down, you just start to take more chances and getting more binds. That was a great move by Brett Moffitt. He pushed Custer down in the corner, and then he wheeled up into that high lane that we see having so much grip and guys getting so much momentum up there. He drove around the outside of Custer. That got Custer loose.
Watch this 00 get underneath the 11 and just gets loose.
Yeah, the 11's just going by him, and it looks like the 00 is kind of chasing his truck up the racetrack a little bit. He gets so close to the 11, and they make a little bit of contact, and man, hard into the safer barrier for Cole Custer.
Well, thank goodness for the safer barrier. Watch the angle. Bam! And again, it's amazing that more trucks didn't get caught up in that. Watch it from the 88 this time of Matt Crafton on board.
You can see Moffitt around the top.
0 up there in the middle. Trying to come backwards. Watch record right here. Just stay straight, stay straight. Watch your inside, watch your inside, watch your inside.
I bet you Crafton said, quit watching stuff from my truck.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is getting a little bit.
And I think it was a situation where Cole couldn't get away from the 11. I don't think he felt like he could turn the wheel to turn away from the 11 because he was loose to start with.
He runs the high line. Harvick up into the top 10.
Keselowski giving no room whatsoever to the 18.
And another big crash on the backstretch, Rick.
Man, and right up in front of more traffic.
Behind you in 3.
Ryan Newman's in it.
David Reagan is in it.
Well,
Fire.
And Chris Buescher was in it as well.
Chris Buescher involved. The 83 of Dylan Lupton up on top of the 31. The Fire underneath the hood of the 23. And the 14 of Tony Stewart.
So he's ripped the oil lines out of the 14.
Stop right here, Lisa. Yeah, get out of that big smoke.
Look at the car on top of that front fender.
Newman trying to get out. You see the safety worker trying to help Dylan Lupton out. Dylan Lupton's car on top of the 31.
Rick, we knew it was going to be a crazy night. Richmond, as the red flag is displayed, but this is maybe perhaps exceeded what we thought.
Smoke climbs out, and the crowd acknowledging Tony Stewart in his final run at Richmond International Raceway.
See Ryan Newman, he's had a good run and making the chase 2 years in a row, but odds are highly against him right now, making it 3.
Brian Scott involved in this. I had mentioned Chris Buescher. I'm not sure the 34 was involved in this. I think it was Ryan Newman.
I think the 34 was in it, but he drove away. Definitely didn't get the most damage, but you're going to see here the 31 and the 14. There's some contact right here heading into turn 1. The 31 accelerates, gets inside the 14 as they enter the backstretch.
And we've seen this several times. The cars having, getting into turn 1, and the 14 just kept coming down on the 31 on the back straightaway. Wasn't happy maybe with what went on in turn 1, and
big impact by the 23, and you see right there Chris Buescher kind of bounces between them. Yeah. Luckily gets through, but that was a really big impact for the 23 of David Reagan. It was great to see him climb out.
With the window net down right away.
This would be a great view of it, Jeff.
Outside 14. 19 straight back, looking inside tight, inside tight, inside tight. We got wrecked hard right here. Got wrecked hard.
14 involved.
Just as it comes down the backstretch, I know the 14, I'm not sure if he's unhappy with the 31 or if he's trying to protect the position, but he just continues to come from the high lane down to the low lane, and the 31 has nowhere to go. Ryan Newman, you heard him even play with the throttle. I'm not sure he was trying to measure how aggressive he wanted to be, but they make contact and spin at the bottom of the backstretch.
Check up, stay high, stay high, stay high, stay high. Stop, 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 stop.
The 43 was just lucky nobody was in front of him. You could hear the rear wheels hopping up and down, had the rear tires locked up.
Carl Edwards in the 19 coming up the racetrack.
I mean, if did the 14 possibly have a left rear tire going down? I mean, look, in watching it looked like they just got into one, and he got mad at Newman and just started coming down on him to show he was upset, and then they got hung up. And
I mean, without a doubt, the 14 and him coming from the right to the left down the straightaway is the cause of the accident. The question is why? Was he doing it to protect? Was he mad at the 31? Did he have a tire going down? We'll have to talk to the drivers involved and see what they have to say, but you would expect when you exit the corner on the top.
Kyle Busch to the lead. Oh! And a spinner. Kennedy got contact from the 21 of Sauter.
Stay with it, stay with it.
Big crash.
Stay with it. All right, guys, we're wrecked here. Hang on, Ben, they're still coming. Hold the steering wheel tight, hold tight.
Ben Kennedy already locked into the chase. Fortunately, because his truck has heavy damage.
Got us there,
Johnny just gets a little bit loose and moves up just a little bit, just a slight bit. You can barely see a mark on the side of that 33 truck. Ben does a great job. If he didn't have any other vehicles, he probably would have been okay, would have saved it. Ben Rhodes came along with nowhere to go, made contact, turned him around. You see the damage that Crafton got.
On board with Cole Custer here in the 00.
Rhodes head back coming. He's wrecking ahead, middle, high.
Whoa.
All good. All right, you're good. South.
Barely by. Watch how Reddick misses this.
Back it down. Come on, high. Come on. Back it up.
An amazing job. Amazing job by Tyler Reddick.
Justin Marks, and the caution comes out once again.
19 was trying to go to the bottom, and Marks was going to the bottom, and 19 just needed to check up just a little bit and give him some room, and he got the car overcorrected and hard impacted the wall.
Huge impact.
Yeah, it is. You see how easy it is when that car starts to spin. You want to turn the wheel to the right to keep it from spinning, but if you turn too much wheel to the right, it hangs a right, and it makes heavy head-on contact.
Take another look. 3,400 pounds of race car off the ground after slamming into the wall.
I think there was a little bit of a storm brewing there because the leaders were all coming out of the pits on fresh tires, and we were all trying to stay. We were trying to stay out there as long as we could on some of the older tires. So there was a big difference in speed, and I think the 19 just got a big run there. And you know, I don't know. I got hit from behind, and that's always a bummer. I saw that he had poked the nose out and that he was coming with a lot of speed, but I was trying to pass the 93 there, and you know, he did what he did, and we got a tore up race car. It sucks.
When you say he did what he did, what exactly do you mean?
Well, he hit us, spun us out.
Do you feel like there may have been something more to it than just a simple racing accident?
No, I mean, well, I don't. It depends on what your definition of a racing accident is. I mean, those guys had tires, and he was racing for the win, and we weren't that good, and he was trying to make up as much time as possible, and you know, I was trying to do the same thing, and there's limited space out there. So I mean, I like Daniel. I don't think he did anything on purpose. I don't think he did anything stupid. I think it was pretty obvious.
This could stack up the entire restart.
We'll watch closely as they get ready to enter the restart zone. Oh, and he gets bumped from behind by the 78. Around goes the 3 on the restart. The 24 of Chase Elliott also around. Hard contact by Austin Dillon. Also caught up. The 44 of Brian Scott.
That's real nice.
That's what I was talking about. If the 3 couldn't accelerate, how patient could the cars be behind him? It seemed like the 3 didn't go fast enough for the 78. There was definitely contact between the 78 and the 3.
But you know, he was doing pretty good against the 48. The 48, it wasn't really pulling him. It's like the 48 and the 3 both had trouble in the restart. But little things matter. Think about Chase Elliott. The decision made to start on the inside versus the outside. All this stuff adds up. One spot put him in this position. 78 just got in the back of him, trying to push him. Not trying to wreck him, trying to push him to help him. But as you said, heavy impact for Austin.
The 18 got into the back of the 24. That's why the 24 went around.
You see right there, the 78 gets underneath the back of the 3, trying to push him. You see the 11 had pushed the 48 hard enough to knock the 48 out of his line as well. How much damage is on the 18?
And again, the 3 of Austin Dillon, a chase driver. The 24 of Chase Elliott, a chase driver, involved in an incident in this first race of the round of 12.
And that 24 had led 103 laps today. And you talked about it, Jeff. You went through all of it as you see a big impact in the safer barrier by the 3 of Austin Dillon.
And that's new safer barrier that was added for this race.
But you had mentioned it. The decision by the 24 for that split second leaving pit road to breathe the gas just a little bit allowed the 78 to go by, and the 11 moved him inside row.
Let's ride along with Martin Truex Jr. in the 78.
That's my point, cruise if you want. Come on, keep digging, keep digging, keep digging. Caution's out.
You have to wonder if, there it is for the 24. See the contact there, he lifts, just collected from behind.
We're spinning in the wall.
Took his hand off the steering wheel, smart move. See those impacts, you know, that's on a restart. They're not even up to speed yet. So think about, you know, how big that impact is, how hard these race cars hit. You hear drivers, you hear people talk about, you know, these cars are safe today. Let me tell you something, you hit that, see what it feels like.
3,400 pound race car slamming into the wall.
Look at the 3 car, this impact.
A big hit.
Huge. You have to wonder, watching that restart, if when Martin Truex got there, that was the time that the 3 was shifting. You know, he was going from one gear to the next, and that slowed him up just that little bit. Because if you watch the 78, that's what he was doing. He had just shifted prior to getting to the 3. I wonder if that little bit of lag, not that Austin did anything wrong, but that little bit of lag of going from one gear to the next, the timing of that is what caused this wreck.
I was thinking the exact same thing, Jeff, because when we were on board with the 78, the timing of it was too perfect, and the 78 didn't really even make contact. It's like he got to the rear bumper of the 3 at the same time that the 3, I won't say checked up. I don't think he checked up, but he stopped accelerating. So let's go back on board with the 78 right here.
Watch when he shifts.
It's exactly the same time he shifts. So if the 3 is, you know, a half a count behind in his shifting, the 78 gets into his bumper just when he gets out of the gas.
You know, watch on these in cars, just the way these guys hit.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Pretty amazing the contact and how violent it is. We can say that they are safer barriers, but it's just all it is dissipating that initial impact. Take another ride along with the 24 of Chase Elliott.
Watch the helmet and the hands. See how that steering wheel is just slinging around? There's no way you can stop that. If you have your hands on that steering wheel, your thumbs on those spokes, it can break your hand, break your thumbs.
Outside coverage, watch the 3, in middle.
Mentioned damage on the 18. I didn't realize he hit the 24 that hard, but they're definitely going to want to look at that left front corner. So you watch this right here. What I think is interesting is the same time the 78 gets to the 3, the 11 got to the 48. If we could see that overhead replay one more time, it's like the second row had momentum and they caught the 2 leaders at the exact same time. The 48 was able to save his. Watch the blue 48. At the same time the 3 starts to spin, that blue and yellow 48, look at the movement he gets from the 11. He gets a shot right
there,
and he has a big wiggle. Jimmy Johnson was just able to save his. 4 fresh tires versus 3 on Austin Dillon. You don't know if that was the speed difference that caused the 3 to spin, but the second row definitely timed that restart very, very good.
And around goes behind him. Justin Allgaier in the 7 involved, as is Darrell Wallace Jr., both Chase drivers.
I think Ryan Reed was also in that wreck.
Cole Custer is involved in it as well. And this was one of those 4 wide situations that was about to build.
Brandon Jones just misjudged the entry speed of the 7 car, trying to make a little bit of a move on the bottom and got into the back of him, and got the 7 turned around, and like nothing these guys could do.
Ryan Reed may have got away unscathed.
How bad's the nose, buddy? Get up that bad. 10-4. That's just racing. 4, they all checked out. Yep, the 33 just absolutely destroyed us. 4, buddy.
I'm sure they're going to disagree even after they discuss it on what happened on the racetrack, but the fact is it's going to cost the 7 of Allgaier and the 6 of Darrell Wallace Jr. a lot of points.
And we're standing near his destroyed race car, which you got out of very gingerly. Are you okay?
I'm okay. Just pretty hard hit. Just unfortunate, you know, we were making some good calls and meeting some laps and running our own race, and it's part of it. So, you know, people ask what wild card race is in the next 3. Here you go.
Tift in the 11, Grant Enfinger in the 24. Neither one of them in the chase, but just as hungry for their first win.
Oh, there it goes.
Ben Rhodes collects a bunch of the big one at Talladega.
As Hemrick is also involved in the bottom in the 19 truck. There's Daniel on the apron of the racetrack.
A big sweeping crash down in turn
Right rear,
1.
Cora. We're going to get you back around here.
And it is the big one. The 9 of William Byron driving through the grass. Hemrick, there's the 78 of Fontaine.
I saw.
Look at the damage.
Brandon Brown got swept into that, and there's the 00 of Cole Custer.
Matt Tift, I think, right in front of him.
Watch on the outside, second truck on the outside lane.
Hard contact. 41 bounces off the wall into the 86 of Brandon Brown.
What about Brandon up in the 6th spot in that truck? And
great job by Rico Abreu, and Tommy Joe Martin's the 44 truck getting by Rico in the 98.
Well, Rico's dodged a bullet a couple of those accidents, hasn't he?
He's seen it all today, Vince.
Rico Abreu making his first start here at Talladega.
Ooh, it looked like maybe Ben was going to the inside. At the same time, Timothy gave him a push, and it just went wrong. Look at Rico. Wow, how does he squeeze through there? Up to the high side on the side of Tommy Joe Martin.
And he had to give Tommy Joe some room, too, and he did.
Good job by both Martins and Abreu to get through that. Brandon. Chance.
Just a victim of circumstances there for sure. Most of these guys had nowhere to go, Vince. They just came along, and it happened so fast. The 41 bounces off that outside wall into Brandon Brown and just clogs up the racetrack.
Just past the halfway mark, and major damage. Multiple trucks. The Chasers, the 3rd truck in line, a 6-time winner this season.
Oh, got a spinner. We talked about Lupton.
It's the 0-2 of Lupton and a hard hit for that 71. Brandon Hightower, the 18-year-old, hard into the wall. That was a huge hit for Lupton. Good to see. You can see him moving around and quickly out of the truck.
He's out, okay. He's good.
He just got up a little bit too close to the 23 of Gallagher. Then I think he felt like he needed to turn the wheel and get away from Spencer. And Brandon came along and just to try to avoid it, turned right and got into the outside safer barrier.
And somehow Lupton didn't hit a thing.
First career start for Lupton here in the Truck Series. You're right, Michael. How does he avoid any contact at all? Not another truck, not the wall. Brandon Hightower, he took it all.
That's what Talladega's all about, Vince. Dylan Lupton makes a mistake.
See how high he was away from the double yellow line.
He gets away with his mistake, and it just swept a couple other trucks into it.
Well, look at Matt Crafton barely get through there with that bright yellow truck.
I'm not sure Hightower had much choice other than just try to crank it to the right. Maybe it got too aggressive with it, obviously. That's why he crashed. But, man, he was in a tough spot with Lupton coming back across the track.
Oh, into the wall hard, the 6 of Darrell Wallace Jr.
Hold the brake.
And they pile up behind him.
Big impact. We could hear that in the booth.
Nice job over here, bud. Yeah, I think the 11 there.
Caution has come out, and there is not a lot of room on the front stretch as 2 cars have stopped on the front stretch, so I'm not sure if they will bring the cars onto pit road or if they're going to stop them. You see Darrell Wallace Jr. giving a thumbs up as he climbed out of that car, and they are going to stop the field in turn 4 just because not a lot of room. They want to make sure they get to these drivers and check to make sure that they're safe.
Yeah, Darrell Wallace Jr., in that must-win situation, had 4 tires on. Very aggressive on the restart. He caught my attention on the backstretch. He was at the bottom of the dogleg, taking Eric Jones 3 wide. Completed that pass, I thought, as he went into turn 3. And I applaud him. I mean, we talk about with your back against the wall, you have to make something happen. He was attempting to make something happen here with 52 to go at Phoenix. It was, time to go. So right here, this is on the restart exiting turn 2. And you see he hangs a left, gets below the 2 and the 20, then shortcuts the backstretch, does a nice job, clears both these cars getting into turn 3, I thought.
He's got the 11 up in front of him. On the radio, we heard him say, tell the 11 thanks, and 11 came down on him.
Yeah, I mean, the 11 takes a left to try to pass the 22. I'm sure he didn't mean to hit the 6, but simply he's the cause. And this will show it clear as day. The 6 is inside the 11.
Clear.
The 11 turns left.
Trying to get a Collison.
That is a hard shot.
Yeah, it's pretty clear right there.
Blake Cook had a run off the turn 4 and didn't check his mirror, didn't know he was there, and just turned left. And Darrell Wallace did nothing wrong whatsoever. So disappointing night too. They ran really well.
They did, and Jeff, but we talked about this. Where the spotters are located here, these cars are coming directly at them. So I'm not sure if there's a depth perception issue. Like coming at them, the spotter knows the 6 is inside the 11 as far as right to left, but where front to back? Like just because he's a lane below doesn't mean he's to the rear bumper. So you have to ask yourself, what information did the 11 have? Obviously he thought he was clear or thought that the 6 could move.
So let's listen in to the 11 radio.
Behind the 22, didn't know the 6 was there. Tell them that. Simple.
Yeah, he was behind the 22, didn't know that 6 was there. You saw, got a tire down.
Ryan Reed got in the wall in the middle of 3 and 4.
And around he's going to go. And a big hit behind him. The 46 and 51 make contact. Jordan Anderson in the 46, fire under the hood now.
This here was the 16 car on the backstretch trying to get back around to get to pit road, loses control because of that flat tire. And behind him, some heavy contact, Rick.
Yeah, the 46 of Jordan Anderson didn't look like he saw the 51 slowing down and got underneath the 51, lifted him off the ground. We saw the 51 get up in the air. And then the flames from underneath the hood.
Most likely that's fuel that was going to the carburetor and just burning that fuel off. Still probably still pumping fuel to the carburetor and just feeding the fire. Ultimately the engine shuts off and doesn't feed the fire anymore.
It took a while for Jordan Anderson to climb out of that car, but once he did, safety crews to him immediately as they were able to put the fire out. But take a look at this. 51 off the ground. So the 5th time now the caution has come out.
Big impact. He just, like you said, he just did not see the accident, did not see what was going on, and wasn't.
They come into the restart zone. Kyle Larson, the outside. Carl Edwards on the inside. Green flag back in the air. They're blocking. Good go down low. Carl Edwards into the wall. He got tagged by the 22. Big hits by the 19, and the caution comes back out again.
That is exactly what we saw Joey Logano was going to try to do. Big fire of the 78, but that is what we thought was going to happen. Obviously, the wreck isn't what we thought. Martin Truex Jr. needs to get out of this race car.
Very aggressive on the restart. The flames rolling out from underneath the hood of the 78. Red flag comes out. Martin Truex Jr. is out of the car. Huge contact for the 19 of Carl Edwards. First it was the inside wall, then he was hit by another car.
A championship's on the line, Rick. The 22 gets a great restart, the 19 blocks. They make contact. Look at the damage on the 19 car. A couple huge impacts.
And we thought that's what was going to happen. The 22, Joey Logano, has been so good on restarts all night. The 22 gets a big run. Carl sees him coming. He goes to block. 22 does not slow up. Stays in the throttle. Big wreck.
And the 22 really ended up getting a lot better out of that situation, because it looked as though Brad Keselowski laid completely off of him, the 22's teammate.
Well, he wanted nothing to do with it. He didn't want anything to do with the accident or the championship battle. But you see the 48's blocking the 2 to the bottom.
And listen, if you're a Carl Edwards fan, you're upset at Joey Logano. If you're a Joey Logano fan, you're upset at Carl Edwards. That right there is Joey Logano being aggressive, making a very, very aggressive move, but he got a good restart. Carl Edwards had no choice but to block. If he doesn't turn left, Joey Logano's next to him entering turn 1. He's in the middle of 3 wide. Worst possible scenario for Carl. Carl turns left, trying to block a championship on the line. Joey's there in a big wreck. And I don't blame Carl Edwards.
Not at all.
He had to block. That's what he